very excited to share a very personal story of mine. So let me start out where this all began. About 8 years ago, I had a really good friend that decided to donate her eggs for another woman to be able to have a baby. I was so moved by this action, and more than anything, inspired by this action, that I wanted to do it. I wanted to donate my eggs, but the time never felt right. Through the donor association that she used, you aged out at 28. So here I am, 8 years later, at a point in my life where I could probably do it, thinking that I'd aged out. I wasted too much time. I didn't do it when I needed to. Ironically, through some connections, I was able to learn about a local fertility clinic here in Denver that took donors until the age of 33. I was in. I couldn't believe it. I went home, I told Ryan, I was like, hey, I'm donating my eggs and I'm doing it now and I can't wait. And he looks at me and he's like, what are you talking about? And at that moment, I realized that we don't talk about this stuff. We don't share these things with each other. It's been such taboo. I thought back to my friend 8 years ago when she did it. Who did she tell? Only her inner circle. And that is why I am telling this story, is because we need to talk about these things. There's so many women out there that are struggling with this. And the people that can help those women get through this is more women. Amazing women with huge hearts that can give a part of their body to someone else to have a baby. That was very empowering for me. So this was not a hasty decision. This was not a decision that I had thought about overnight. This was the making of 8 years of coming to this and finally being able to do something that I feel very passionately about, and something that I'm so glad that whoever the family is out there that have my eggs and can have children, you're welcome. And I am so glad I was able to do that for you. I was so glad that you can have as many kids as you want, that you can grow your family like you want. And more than anything, thank you for choosing me. I just appreciate that I can be a part of that process and share my story with people and not have any judgment from folks as I kind of go through the process. So my little piece of gratitude today is being able to be honest and hopefully influence other people to do the same thing. Because the more that we can help each other, especially as women, the better off we are. So now I want to talk about the process. I want to tell you about it. I want to tell you about what the process looks like, how it works, what are all the ins and outs. I want to disclaim this with, I am not a doctor, so if you want all of the crazy medical terms on how it works, you can go to a website and read about it. But this is my understanding of the process from what I experienced. You have to fill out an application. You have to answer a series of questions. You have to be able to say that you haven't had a tattoo or piercing in the last 12 months. You have to share all of your medical history. You have to write about yourself. I had to say, what I aspired to be, what I was like as a kid, what's my personality. I had to tell them how bad my acne was when I was a child, that I had braces 100 times, what my hair color was, what my favorite pastime is. All of those details go into the application. Nurses review it and they select people that pass those preliminary questions. And I was paired up with a nurse and a counselor. I went through a basic physical, sat down with the counselor because they had to make sure that I was mentally sane to be doing this. And then my profile went up on the internet. I was given 2 options of how my profile could be selected. The first one was frozen egg donation. What that means is that I would have been put up onto a profile, I would have gone through the donor process, and all of my eggs would have been able to be selected by multiple families. So this family could take 5, this family could take 10, this family could take all of them. But for me, that wasn't a good fit. I didn't want to have that many half brothers and sisters floating around there, and I really wanted to make sure that all of my eggs were going to one family, one person. So I chose the second option. In that scenario, that family gets all of my eggs. They choose to use the ones that they want, and then they can either donate the rest to science or destroy them. That is their decision to make. This was the scenario that I felt comfortable with, because within hours of me going through my physical, getting approved, and coming up onto the system as a donor, I was taken down. Someone had picked me, which tells me that there was a family sitting out there waiting for a woman that had blonde hair, blue eyes, Probably just something as basic as that. At that point, we looked at my schedule, figured out when the timing was going to be right and when the timing was going to be right for the recipient, and we started the hormone process. I started by taking birth control pills for 3 weeks to suppress the hormones in my body. On week 4, I stopped taking those pills. I had about a 5-day waiting period before I started my injections. When I started my injections, it was 1 shot in the morning and 1 at night. This to me was a very painless process. I had very tiny needles, easy ways of getting the syringes ready. But because I was doing it for such a purpose and such a reason, it wasn't a big deal to me. The injections lasted for about 5 days. And every single day through that process, I was going into the doctor and I was having an ultrasound. What the hormones were doing was enlarging my follicles so that an egg would mature in every single one of the follicles. Just got out of my first checkup appointment. Everything looks good. Got about 19 follicles on the one side, 21 on the other, so really healthy. They're growing well. I'm at about a 12.4 and they need to be at a 14 before I start my next set of medications. Lucky for me, what I found out through this process is that I have 22 follicles in each ovary. For women that are going through infertility, that's a lot. And you know this. You know 22 in each ovary is a lot. So we were checking those through the process. About day 5 is where I had to start taking an additional shot. End of day 5, started day 6 of drugs. This is what a trash can of a donor looks like. Tons of drugs that I've gone through and processed, still feeling really, really good. Changed to 2 shots in the morning and then 1 at night. Try to knock over all my drugs. Because I also keep this little caddy here as well. Just to keep track of everything that I have. A lot of my drugs have to be refrigerated, so that's a little different. But yeah, so far so good, still feeling great. So I was taking 2 in the morning and 1 at night. This process of taking the injections lasted about 10 days. On the day that I was called to take my extraction shot, so you have to take your extraction shot at the exact time that they tell you, and then within 48 hours of that injection shot is when they are going in and harvesting your eggs. At that point, the way that you feel is really full. Your ovaries are huge. They're the size of oranges by this point. You've increased the size of your follicles and you're maturing everything in your body and you just feel really full. I just finished day 7, feeling very full. My follicles went from 12 inches to 18 inches yesterday during my ultrasound and I need to be at 20. My shot last night, I have to do my both this morning and then I could get notified today to take the extraction shot, which means that my extraction would happen on Saturday. Last shot. Extraction is on Sunday. Super excited and excited to not get poked again for a while. To my last drop of blood this morning. Everything is looking good. I was also told through this process that I would be ornery and mad and cry on the drop, and I didn't. I felt great. I had no different feelings than I normally do. I felt very even keel. If anything, I felt a little more tired, maybe a little more down for my personality. Day 1 was rough. I first had a headache from no caffeine, and I thought I was gonna be fine. I didn't have any Tylenol. I can't take any ibuprofen. Got home and continuously got worse and worse and worse. Probably ended up being the worst headache I've ever had in my entire life. I slept, I laid down, and got up to have dinner, and just like couldn't get the pounding on my head to stop. And it made me so sick that I puked, something I pretty much slept the whole night. So I feel good now. Today's day 2. So fast forward to taking my injection shot at 11 o'clock p.m. at night. Going into the doctor the next morning, them saying everything looks good, you need to take another one at 11 a.m. Took my second extraction shot, and then that Saturday morning, I was in at the doctor at 8 a.m. for the retrieval. As soon as I got with my bedside nurse, and I tear up with this, she was very moved and honored to have done my process. She said that when they meet donor patients, that it is the most powerful thing in the world. It's the most beautiful thing that anyone could ever give another woman. And they are privileged to have been by my bedside and meet me through this process.
The reason why I'm doing it is for someone else to have a child and have a family. And that's what warms my heart every single morning, is that I'm doing it for them.
I went under full anesthesia, and the goal or the hope that you could give the family from an egg perspective with me having 22 follicles on each side is 44 eggs. All I remember is getting wheeled into the surgery room, scooting down to the edge of the bed, and when I woke up, I was in the waiting room. The nurse comes by and she says, "Hey, you're starting to wake up. Are you feeling okay?" First thing out of my mouth was, "How many? How many did I give?" And she said, 35. And I just started crying. Out of 44, I was able to give 35 eggs to this family. Reality is of those 35 eggs, they are going to pair it with the sperm to make embryos. All of those embryos are going to be tested, and any viable ones are going to be used and saved. Out of that 35, after you get to the point of embryo and after you get to the point of testing, they could have anywhere from 7 to 12 viable embryos to use for their family. That was huge. That was more than I could have even imagined giving them, and it was so special to be a part of that process. We're talking about from the point of my first shot to my surgery, 10 days. A little uncomfortable that Sunday after the surgery. Nothing crazy though, just felt like a normal cramp, had hot pads, and then I just went on with my everyday life, knowing that I was able to give this to someone else, hoping that they get a pregnancy out of this. And that to me is a gift that I can't even explain. I was lucky enough that it was really easy. And I hope that other people can maybe think about it or decide if this is something that they would be interested in, because it can be such a powerful thing to give someone.